I don't care whether you have confidence in just Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox. Well, you got to tell, Steven Nelson, hey, drop him. I'm talking about the same ones that Nick Sirianni was talking about, the same ones that Devontae Smith was carrying after that damn that touchdown. Drop him, dude. Okay? And you got to get out there and shut that guy down. I need you for one play. Conjure it up, find whatever you got to find, go see the wizard, whatever it is, but I need you to stand up out here,
Hey, Seth is here, though. So.
He's ready. All right, well, let's go. Let's bring him on. The man. You see him on the Eagles pregame, postgame show, and 80% of the fan base want him to be on the sidelines as a defensive coordinator for the Birds. But Seth, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
What's going on, gents?
Bro, how's it going? I appreciate you coming on for your workout, man. But you see what's going on here in Philly, man. Your boy Gannon might be a head coach somewhere else.
Houston.
You ready to take the helm? You ready to take the reins?
Yeah, I'll take it, man, and crack the whip. But you know Howie and Jeffrey ain't gonna do that, man.
And it's funny, because Harry, man, we used to go to events, and I remember the former defensive coordinator. Me and Seth will walk into the room together, and we be talking to different people. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at I would look at the defense coordinator and I say, hey, what's going on? And Seth would look at him, and the dude would turn around and leave the room. I'm like, so I thought it was me at first. So then I turned around and looked at Seth. He said, man, this ain't the first time. Then it happened again. I was like, why Swartz leave every time you're in his presence? But then, we go on the show. I say, and I tell him when we go to break, I said, Seth, that's exactly why. he leaves the room every time you come in, bro. That's exactly why right there.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a conversation with him. Just like, Howie's the same way. He don't really ever want to talk to me. I make him shake my hand and say, all right. But I don't know, man. I don't know what is there to be afraid of if the point is to win and to bring in people that can help you win, then you do that.
Right.
I'm not. I understand how the business works. I played in the NFL for 13 years. I understand that you have to be a team player. My commentary and my analyst is one thing. Stepping into a job is a whole nother realm. And the only way that things work in that realm is that everybody is on the same page. And, communication is always the key with that. Communication smooths the road for everything. So, if they think that, I can't do the job or I won't do the job because I'd be divisive, communication takes care of all of that.
Right. And you said something interesting, as we were leaving on our final show this year. You said that if Jalen doesn't take that step forward, there's going to be a problem, with the Eagles going forward and thinking of being better. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, listen, I think that, hey, they've got to give him an extra year. I mean, when you think about where this team is headed and, what this team needs, and all you got to do is look at last weekend's playoff games, and it's abundantly clear that this team ain't close. And it ain't just the quarterback. It's
right. I don't know.
It's across the board. I mean, you've got, I was talking about it on my show yesterday. I don't know what Howie's thinking. To your point, Barrett, I know good and well that, those picks are itching his pockets right now.
Yep.
So there's, people have talked about, we can, mortgage 2 of those and move up in the first and get, an impact player, maybe package them in a way where you get, 2 next year. I don't know. I think you can get some pretty darn good players at 15, 16, and 19. And the Eagles need a defensive end, a linebacker, a safety, a corner, and dare I say, another wide receiver. you know. And listen, they got 11 picks. You know, can they get all of those positions and everything fulfilled within those 11 picks? One would think so. But you know, as far as Jalen is concerned, I think you got to build around him and hope that, you know, he takes the next step, you know, next year. You know, and is he going to be elite? You know, is he going to be Josh Allen? Is he going to be Justin Herbert? Is he going to be Patrick Mahomes? I don't think he'll ever be that kind of passer.
Okay, right.
But I do think that you can build a great defense around him, that you can build a good running game around him, and that he's got enough skill sets to develop and get the job done. I don't think that every game that you win has to be a you know, a shootout, and everyone's going to look at the Chiefs game. Everyone's going to look at, you know, how Tom Brady brought the Bucks back before they fell to the Rams, and they went, "Oh, you need an elite level quarterback." No, every single year the Tennessee Titans are right there. You know, now Ryan Tannehill threw the damn game away because they couldn't get the run game going really the way that they wanted to. But look at San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo is doing his damnedest to send them fishing, and they keep finding a way because they got a great running game. They got a Swiss Army knife in Deebo Samuel, and their damn defense is pretty darn good.
Yeah, and they seem to have the Rams' number, at least for the last couple of years. Shanahan does on McVay, but that show you're referring to is the Seth Joyner Show, and that's on YouTube, and that's every Tuesday night, right, Seth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you got to subscribe to the Seth Joyner Show on YouTube. But let's get back to the defensive coordinator situation. Let's just say that Gannon does get this job, and they've got to go looking around. Would you recommend that they get a veteran guy, because this is a very young coaching staff? Would you think like a Vic Fangio, Mike Zimmer guy would be a better fit here?
Listen, I love what Vic Fangio did in Chicago. I mean, they built a monster in Chicago for a while. They just couldn't get it together offensively. You know, I'd love to have a guy like that. Mike Zimmer is a little more passive. You know, he's not as aggressive. And quite honestly, I'm just sick and tired of watching, these passive, defensive coordinators. Those are the type of coordinators we had in Philadelphia for the last, I don't know what, Jim Schwartz was there, 5 years? So we're going on 6 years.
We had Bradley too, the guy that transferred from 4-3 to 3-4 and back to 4-3 again. Him with that staff there. Right. He was horrible also.
Right. I just I'd like to see some creativity, and I think that Vic Fangio has been around long enough that he can scheme up things. He can bring pressures. He can show pressure from one direction, and come. I think he's been in the league long enough. He's seen the old guard football, the type of football that, Barrett and I played, and he's looking at and trying to decipher what to do with this new guard football where, everybody wants to throw it all over the map and you can't take, wide receivers' heads off when they come across the middle. So you got to kind of figure out how you find that fine line. I think that, when you look at the playoffs, I think most of the teams in the playoffs have pretty darn stout defenses, and they don't just sit back. I mean, I was shocked when I watched, because I hadn't seen them play all year. I was shocked when I saw the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense ain't no joke, man.
Right.
that front is good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then you turn around and you turn on the Tennessee Titans and they sack
Burrow 9 times.
9 times?
Yeah. And lost the game.
I mean, you would ask yourself, how in the world you lose a game and you get 9 sacks on defense, but when you turn it over 3 times on the other side, therein lies, what the issues were. But when you look at these defenses, I mean, right across the board, the thought that, and everyone will get caught up in, this again, the Sunday games, because they were so quarterback centric.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got to have a quarterback. Look at the defenses, and how profound they were and what happened in these, over this weekend. And yeah, you're going to have your glitches, the situational awareness, the situational execution I mean, how do you let Cooper Kupp run a seam route, right down the middle of the field, for 50-something yards? How do you wind up with a linebacker on Travis Kelce, with the game on the line, so you're gonna have those questions. But when you look at these defenses, for the most part, they're aggressive, and I want a defense coordinator who is aggressive minded, that will challenge his DBs and challenge his players to get up and challenge the players, the opponents at the line of scrimmage. I get it. Sometimes you got to play off, but sometimes you just got to get right up in a guy's jockstrap, and get with him. One of the reasons, I mean, and listen, if I'm in Miano's shoes, that's the linebacker that was
Buffalo.
Yeah, he was covering Travis Kelce. Okay. It don't make no sense for you to get up and press if you're just going to open the gate and let the guy run by you.
Right.
The reason why you getting up and press is to put hands on the guy. Okay. Now, if you scared, say you scared, and we'll put another dog out there on you. Okay? But if any time that I get up on a guy, I'm going to force him to go the way that I want to go. I'm not going to stand there and do the mirror dance with him. Okay. I'm either going to play inside or outside technique. And when that ball snaps, I'm jumping across the line of scrimmage and I'm going to take my one jam, because now I can disrupt the timing of the route, And if Travis Kelce isn't where Patrick wants him to be, when he needs him to be, now he's got to come off of that receiver and go somewhere else. My job is done. But if you just let that guy run by you, okay, and he's got 4 or 5 inches on you, and can adjust to the ball on a back shoulder throw, and you're not confident enough to look at his eyes and say, here comes the ball, I got to turn and make a play on the ball, I got to do something, then what's the point? You might as well play 5 yards off, and give him the hitch or give him the quick out. I want coaches who understand how to coach players to play the game.
We don't have that. We don't have that anymore. We talked about, as far as these young quarterbacks reading. They don't read anymore because they don't read defense anymore because, everybody's looking to the sideline waiting for the play to call where the offensive coordinator is reading the defense. That's why these young quarterbacks don't know how to read defense, because they're not taught. It used to be that, NFL used college football as a farm league, but it's not like that anymore. You basically, trying to get guys better. It's more so about putting butts in the seats in those classrooms as opposed to teaching these young guys how to be NFL players. So I think that's the difference in how these guys are reading and everything else. They're not coached the same way. Receivers aren't coached to catch the ball a certain way. I think the only places that you really get firm coaching that, that's transferable to the NFL is in the trenches, and that's the line, offensive line and defensive line.
Well, I get the NFL should ask themselves that. I think that, the technique and the fundamentals that you learn in the offseason, and the problem is you only get these guys for a minimum amount of time in the offseason.
That's another issue. Yeah.
Because of OTAs. I just, as a young player, you're coming off your rookie year. That first offseason, potentially is the most critical year of your career. Because for me, I was in Philadelphia from February 28th to June something, working every single day with my position coach on my technique and my fundamentals and learning the defense and working out and all. So what else you got to do? I mean, the NFLPA has made it so these guys, they can't even come in and work with their coach even if they want to. Well, how are you supposed to get better? I mean, it's almost an impossibility, to get better unless you source somebody outside. And how many of these guys, have the wherewithal to look at themselves objectively, on film after 16, 17 games and say, you know what? I don't do this well. I don't do that well. I need to find somebody who can train me in the off season to do those things, because once I come back in, now it's all about scheme and, and being able to, learn my defense and installment. And then you're out in the practice field and, that time is minimized, You know, so how much time do we really actually have to work on, you know, how do you play the game? You know, so I listen, I get your point, you know. The funny thing is, it's funny that you mentioned the quarterbacks and how they stop and look to the sideline. I think that's one of the main reasons that Sean McVay went and got, you know, Matthew Stafford. How many times do you see him looking to the sideline and try to figure out what Sean wants to run? He just runs the offense. He had to do that every single play with Jared Goff.
Right.
I can remember the game where they had Jared Goff mic'd, you know, and you could actually hear the conversation between him and Sean McVay telling him what play to run. I'm like, how do you pay this guy $35-40 million? He's a quarterback in the NFL, and he doesn't know your offense well enough to know what to get into and what to get the hell out of. The head coach / OC is actually over on the sideline telling this guy what to run. You know, I don't like where the league is going, and I get why the players wanted, you know, more restriction as far as what the teams could make them do, because if the teams could do it, they'd have you there all year round.
Right.
But every single time that the league makes an adjustment, it's an over adjustment. You know, it goes way out of bounds, because these players should be able to come into the facility and work with their coaches whenever they want to, watch film with their coaches whenever they want to, come in and lift weights whenever they want to. You know, but I get it, because if the NFL and the coaches control it, they'll have you there all year round. And call it voluntary, involuntary.
Hey, Seth, speaking of league adjustments, there's a lot of people in media and the fan base that think the league needs to adjust the overtime rules again after that Chiefs-Bills game, because the Bills didn't get their hands on the football with their offense. What are your thoughts on that?
Play better defense.
Exactly. Yes.
Listen, the rules are what they are. You know, the NFL is never going to, you know, line up on the 25-yard line, you get an equal amount of possessions.
Like college.
Yeah, I mean, the game will never end. The game will never end in the NFL. You know, so a lot of those people are probably, you know, Buffalo Bills fans that are upset. You know, you had 13 seconds to keep, you know, Patrick Mahomes from tying the damn game up. Play smarter football. Understand that, you know what? Hey, they're not running the Hail Mary from their own 25 damn yard line. You're gonna give them, you know, 40 yards in 13 seconds, 44 yards in 13 seconds.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I mean, it's just stop complaining and play better.
That's all. Pooch kick it.
And you know what? Stop calling tails, you know, in the overtime session. It's heads 90% of the damn time.
Hey, I don't know if you heard it or not, but Brandon Brooks retired.
Oh, geez, did he really?
Yeah,
11 o'clock today.
11 o'clock today. He's retired, and I think it's almost official that Byron Leftwich is the new head coach of Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, yeah.
Wow.
So, wow. But that you know, with Brooksy retiring, man, that's they're used to playing without him now, but that really throws a wrench in my draft as far as, you know, those 3 number ones, and understanding that now they're going to be scrambling for another starter that they can plug in to you know, to play at that right guard position. So I mean, do you think that changes? Because I really think, and I know, I mean, I've been thinking this for the last 5 years, and you've been steady, you know, telling me and emphasizing to me that will never happen. But I believe they're going to get an impact linebacker this year in the first round. I think it's going to be Lloyd from Utah. That's what I'm hoping. But now that kind of throws a wrench in my theory now, because with Brooksy retiring, I really think Howie's going to scramble for a guy like that.
Well, see, the thing that scares me is Howie and Nick Sirianni's press conference when he was asked, you know, how they intended to approach the draft, you know, and he pretty much said that, you know, we've got a specific way that we think we have to do things to build a roster. In other words, we ain't changing how we do things. If that's the case, then they ain't drafting a linebacker with those top 3 picks. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, you just stop and think about it.
Why you keep hurting my feelings, man? You've hurt my feelings for the past 5 years, man.
Listen, man, have I lied to you though, B?
Exactly right.
You know, I mean, listen, we know and we understand what they should be doing.
Right.
They think they know what the hell they are doing, you know, and they just keep making a mess. Now, last year, you know, he couldn't screw up last year's draft. The only questionable thing he did was drafting Dickerson. You know, with his injury history, everybody thought that he would be, you know, a mid-second to third round because no one wanted to take a chance, you know, with him coming off an injury. But it turned out to be, you know, a great pick for us. I think, you know, if they can get Jason Kelce to come back for another year, you're solid on the left side with the two young beasts over there on the left side of the line. Yeah, that does change things because Jeffrey and Howie, they believe that, you know, the way that you win Super Bowls and the way that you win in this league is with high-powered elite level offenses, you know, and understanding that the first thing you have to do is secure an elite level offensive line, and then you have to have an elite level quarterback. So it wouldn't surprise me if one of those picks, you know, maybe the top two picks, you know, either 15 or 16, it wound up being, you know, a highly rated guard. There's going to be so many good defensive players and so many good skilled players coming out in this draft that, you know, a top-rated offensive lineman, at least a top 3 to 5, may fall to the Eagles. You know, a guy that can play center and guard. It'd be very hard for them to turn that down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's, you know, listen, like I said, they need a defensive end and they need a damn linebacker. Okay?
I take a defensive end in a New York Minute right now because they have nobody that can generate pressure.
Right.
And with Brandon coming back,
yeah,
they still need somebody opposite. Your Sweat, he definitely, you know, ramp things up towards the end of the season, man. But they need some. I want somebody that offensive coordinators have to make sure that they account for within the framework of how they play calls.
Yeah,
we got to at least slide somebody or allocate more protection to this guy every single play. We haven't had that type of guy in a long time.
Yeah, listen, there are no Chase Youngs in this draft. That's what you're talking about. And then
right,
you know, if you get a guy like that, you're probably gonna have to
they'll be gone in the first 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a difference maker. But there's some guys out there, you know, for me, you know, the Eagles got a whole lot of defensive ends or outside linebackers, whatever you want to call them, they all look the same and they all have the same skill set. You know, they look like oversized outside linebackers, undersized true defensive ends.
Yep.
That are going to get you, you know, 7, 8, you know, 9 sacks a year. You know, you need
amongst
that guy.
all of them.
Huh?
Amongst all of them together.
And listen, I mean, you know, my best year, I had 7.5 sacks. Come on. And I was
one guy.
And I wasn't even rushing every damn play, every predictable running play. Okay. So you got to go get somebody that can get you, you know, 10, 11, 12, 15 sacks. You need that guy, you know, that makes everybody else around them better. Now, is that guy in this draft? Is it Hutchinson? Is it I'm not even going to try to chop up the old boy's name. The guy on the other side that played, you know, across from him. You know, who is it?
Right.
I'm not talking about that guy that's 6'2 and a half, 6'3, you know, 265 pounds. No, I'm talking about that grown man that's like 6'5, you know, 275 to 280 pounds that you can put over at right defensive end. They can give everybody's left tackle all kind of nightmares. That's what they need.
Well, no, hold on now. Clyde Simmons ain't getting drafted right now, bro. They don't have a bunch of Clyde Simmons. Now, they do have David Ajobu. He's the defensive end from Michigan.
Yeah.
Opposite of Hutchinson. He's 6'5", 250. So he needs to get in the weight room.
Come on, man. 250. What is 250 going to do against Tyron?
Right.
Come on, man.
Tyron Smith, yep.
What are you going to do against Tyron Smith? Tyron Smith is what, 320?
Yep, 326, 6'6".
Got feet like a ballerina, and when he put his hands on you, it's a wrap. What he gonna do with 250?
Right.
He gonna
toss him to the side.
That's what I'm saying. That's why when the Eagles drafted Derek Barnett, the first thing I said is he's got to put on about 25 pounds. If he don't put on some weight, okay, he's not going to be able to operate unless they're going to put BG over there on that side. Well, they put him over there, and what has he been doing? He's been getting beat like a drum and playing stupid football ever since they brought him here.
A lot of penalties. Yep. No doubt. Hey, Seth, what about wide receiver? They obviously need a lot more there besides Devontae Smith. Would you rather see them go out and try to sign a veteran this offseason? There's a couple of pretty good names that could be available.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't realize, 11 out of the last 12 drafts, the Eagles have drafted a wide receiver. I mean, that's just too much draft capital for one position. That tells me that somebody is messing up big time in the decision-making process. And that's pretty evident to us all because we can see, you can go all the way back. You got Aguilar, you got Mac Jones, you got Matthews.
Arthega-Whiteside.
You got Jalen Reagor. I mean, that's just 5 that just off the top of my head.
Right.
So we're going to go into this draft this year and choose another wide receiver for the 12th time in 13 years. I mean, somebody's got to be held accountable for that because you can't keep making. I mean, think about the draft capital that's been wasted over the last 11 years on this one position.
Yeah.
So while there's some guys out there that may fall to you, I mean, you look at all the players, my goodness, just think about Ohio State with 3 guys that bowed out, during the bowl season. You'd be happy to have either one of those guys.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, can you really afford to spend another draft pick on a first rounder? Can you draft a 12th wide receiver in the next 13 drafts? To me, that makes no sense. So you go and you try to find, a young guy that's, or a veteran, if you will, that's a team that, can't afford to pay him, don't want to pay him, can't pay him because of salary cap reasons, and you spend the money and go get him and bring him in and you pair him up with Devontae Smith. You got to do it because you got to figure out how to take the pressure off of, Devontae and Dallas Goedert. Because the way that things are constructed now, those are the only 2 guys that you got to worry about.
Right.
And when you look at these elite teams, look at Kansas City, look at Cincinnati. I mean, they got 3, 4, 5 guys, that can stick in at any time. And
even Dallas.
There's no drop off. Yeah. I mean, listen, I go after Gallup. I go after Mike Jones. I go after, even though, he's going to be coming off in the ACL. I go after Godwin. I mean, I'm going after these guys. Because you got to have one of those guys. You have to. And I don't think you can go in the draft and spend draft capital at that position. You just can't do it again. You've invested too much in that position over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have the perfect guy for you, dog, that the Eagles need to invest in, and he will be right around that middle of the draft, man. DeMarvin Leal, a defensive end from Texas A&M. He's a defensive end / defensive tackle. He plays both. He prefers to be on the outside, even though he will play on the inside. But he's 6'4", 285, 290 pounds, cat quick, get off the hole, can rush, has the ankle bend you always talk about. Really good guy. So if you're gonna start researching, man, look at DeMarvin Leal, bro.
Well, I'll tell you this: the metric sounds good, and even if he's a project that you feel like it may take a year to turn him into what you think you really want him to be. And if he's a mid-round pick, you can get away with that.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that, but I like the numbers. I like the metrics, the physical metrics. I like to see some film on him and see, what he actually looks like. But then again, if Jonathan Gannon comes back, he doesn't fit the mold. No, I'm just saying he doesn't fit the mold of what it is that of what you're trying to create on defense.
Right. That aggressiveness.
Well, I mean, it's not even aggressiveness. It's how you want to play. Because when they go to their 5-man line, you're gonna have him stand up outside. Who comes out of the game?
Right.
You kick him down inside and bring Avery in. Or
what? The stream doesn't necessarily know what I'm talking about, but Seth is a firm believer that you take on, as a player, you take on the demeanor of your coach, on how he calls the game. You take on that demeanor, and Gannon just doesn't fit the mold that he feels as though, is an aggressive type of guy. So, can you expound upon that before you leave?
Listen, how can you be aggressive if the mindset of your coaches is passive?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when Buddy would call it, I mean, Buddy was aggressive. He wasn't just aggressive when it came to, calling defenses. He was aggressive in practice. I mean, he'd get in your ass in practice, I mean, he jumped down your throat in practice, So for me, Philly was the perfect place to be at the time when I got there, because by nature, I was already aggressive, So to have a coach like that, I mean, he could talk about me. He can, talk about me in the media. It didn't bother me, because I knew what he was doing, and all it did was just, all it did was lit the fire to the fuel. So when he would call a blitz, oh man, I was drooling down my face mask because okay, now we can get after some things, and even if I wasn't the guy that was going on the blitz, if I had, one-on-one coverage on the tight end or back, or for some strange reason I got, found myself, split out on the guy in the slot, I'm like, I took it personal. Well, this is my dude. Everybody else can get a ball, but this dude ain't catching a damn thing. I'm gonna lock this dude up. So that's the kind of mentality that you create when the defensive coordinator is aggressive, But you take a guy like Darius Slay, for instance. That little period, during the year where he got really hot, had the interceptions, the pick six. If you look at how they played defense during that time, because they were playing against the Sisters of the Poor. So Jonathan Gannon wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid of, getting guys up and being aggressive and calling some blitzes.
Right.
So what happened? Darius Slay just, had a 3 or 4 game stint where he was just on fire.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start, he got passive again, or early in the year, so you take a guy like that who really wants to be aggressive in situations where he can be aggressive. In his mind, he's thinking, oh, I don't want to get beat over the top. So he plays off and he plays soft, So you can't necessarily blame the player when the mentality is set by the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator or the head coach, So my thing is, if you're not going to empower your players to be aggressive, then what the hell's the point? Because you can play. There are situations where you play bend but don't break. When you got a 20-point lead, you can play bend but don't break. But when the game is on the line, I don't care whether you have confidence in just Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox. Well, you got to tell Steven Nelson, hey, drop him. I'm talking about the same ones that Nick Sirianni was talking about, the same ones that Devontae Smith was carrying after that damn that touchdown. Drop him, dude. Okay, and you got to get out there and shut that guy down. I need you for one play. Conjure it up, find whatever you got to find, go see the wizard, whatever it is, but I need you to stand up out here, because there comes a point in time in every single game that's the case,
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. I mean, if you call it passively, then you make your players passive. The
Right.
more aggressively you call it, okay. Now this is assuming that you got a bunch of dogs on your defense, okay? If you got a couple of cats over there, then yeah, you better be a little more passive. But if you got some dogs, then you gotta that dog mentality that Nick Sirianni be talking about.
Yeah.
You got to empower those guys to embody that dog mentality, and that's by being aggressive.
Yep. Not even cats either. Some of them are declawed cats, Seth. And one last thing. Barrett tells the story about how Kansas State won the recruiting battle for his services in college football. The Stream and I both want to know, how did UTEP win Seth Joyner?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Listen, man, my senior year, and first of all, I grew up in New York. And
Right.
Back then, New York was a basketball state, but at 6'2.5", 195 pounds, I knew I wasn't going to college to play no damn basketball, Plus, football was just my thing. There wasn't a whole lot of colleges that came knocking. I visited Syracuse and McPherson, suggested that I go to a prep school for a year. The same prep school that year closed up that October of my freshman year. So that would have been a disaster. Junior college, was an option, but there was a junior college coach over in Westchester, New York, that was recruiting me, and he got the offensive line / assistant head coach job down at Utah, and he stayed in contact with me. And as we got through the spring, I wasn't getting any offers. Nothing seemed to be concrete. He called me. He was like, "Hey, listen, you can walk on down here with an opportunity, we're building something here." And I didn't have anything. So I was like, "Oh, well, let's go." So I went down to El Paso, never having, visited or seen it. And when I was landing there, I almost cried because there was no trees,
right.
no grass, no nothing. I'm like, where is this godforsaken that I've committed myself to going? But honestly, it was the best place for me to be because I was a little wild coming out of college. I could have walked on. My high school coach went to the University of Miami. He said, if you want to walk on down there, I can make that happen. But Miami was on probation at the time. And I always say, God puts you where you need to be, not where you want to be. Because if I would have went to Miami, y'all would have never heard of me. Okay. The best thing that happened for me was for me to go to El Paso because there was nothing to do.
Right.
School and football. That was
no trouble to get into.
For the first time in my life, I started lifting weights. My freshman year, I wound up starting 6 games at inside linebacker at 195 pounds. That offseason, I went from 195 to 215. They moved me to outside backers, the best year I had. That's what confused the hell out of everybody when the draft came around because they didn't know whether to play me inside or outside. My junior year, I went from 215 to 235. And when the Eagles drafted me in the 8th round, I was 255 pounds of stone hard muscle. I came in and Buddy was like, you got to get down to like 240. I'm like, how in the hell am I going to do that? But that's the story, man. That's how I wound up in El Paso, Texas.
It's a great story.
So all those young cats out there, sometimes, listen, you don't have to go to a big school to get there. It's nice to go to a big school and get recruited and get all the attention and be on TV. But if you can play football, they're going to find you,
right.
So just get in where you fit in, do what you got to do, work hard. The opportunity is there.
That's awesome. Thanks for telling that story, and thanks for all the great insights, Seth. We appreciate it.
You got it, gents.
Follow him on Instagram at Seth Joyner Show and the Seth Joyner Show on YouTube every Tuesday night. And he's also on Twitter at Seth Joyner. Thanks for hooking that up, Barrett. We'll be back in 3.